se donne la réponse.
Oui, les 20 plus 3.
Je pensais qu'on va faire le retour de 17h le soir. Il y a de la place, non ou pas?
Tu choisis, il y a de la place dans le jeu.
Non, ça devrait être bon. Du coup, quand c'est bon.
Okay.
Oui.
Qui commence? Je pense que... On attend encore des gens ou on y va? Non, vas-y, parce que sinon ceux qui sont en ligne, ils attendent. Ok.
C'est une partie de cyclisme. Il était que 4.
Hello. Olivier, il faut que tu avances, je crois. I will do this presentation in English because there is Giovanni and he
If
don't
you
speak.
want, I can leave and
No, that's fine.
the same.
That's fine. You can.
See.
And this is fine for us because we can work on our English. So this is good.
Okay.
I will talk about Pass the Salt, which is a conference that happened in Lille in France. We went 3 days with the security team to see conferences, and the first day was about the reverse engineering. And for me, it was a little bit rough to understand the process and all the things they were explaining because I didn't have all the knowledge to understand the deep. They went into the assembly code, the reverse things, and all that. There was a presentation about radar, FRIDA, and the merging of these two into radar to FRIDA. The second day was about the network security, and it was for me the most interesting days because we have a presentation about the guys who made a net filter, and he tell us about 10 years into firewalling in Linux and net filter.
Was it Harald Belt?
Sorry?
Was it Harald Belt?
No. It was Pablo something. Okay. And then we have also a presentation on the third day about IoT and security on connected object and things like that. The first day I went on to the Suricata workshop. Suricata is a tool about comment tu dis surveillance en anglais? About monitoring your network and seeing all the things that go through your traffic before the traffic enter your private network. And we are currently making a proof of concept about Suricata with Simon in the security team. I didn't quite have the time to work on it right now, but I will. For the second day, it was, or maybe it was on the third day, we have a presentation about one of our concurrents on the web hosting field. It was Clever Cloud, and he tell us about all the machine they are working on it, all the developing stack they have, and they are not performing the hosting thing not like us, and it was interesting to see how they are performing it, and how to compare to our infrastructure and seeing all the differences we have and all the common things we have too. We also did RUMS, which is a lightning talk. You have 4 minutes to talk about the subject. For me, I was talking about the daily thing is about working with a security team. It was quite challenging to do that because in 4 minutes you didn't have all the time to explain all the things you are doing with your security team and all stuff like that. Yoann, si tu veux porter
So, yeah, so during the first day, I want to repeat everything you said. I think I made a workshop about FOP, which is a tool to in a very fast and extensive. I mean, you can write plugin and things to expand the program, but it's a base framework for analyzing host names and such things in about any monitoring system. So you can know what's going on and who is accessing which site in your infrastructure. It could be interesting to have in order to check what actual vhost we are hosting and what is being accessed and what is not. So could be an interesting tool. I made a RAM too, but it didn't go too well. I really didn't have enough time, so I make roughly a third of what I was supposed to say then. And on the third day, yes, there was many talks about Internet of Things, and which gives, as you probably already know, like many privacy problems. It was quite interesting to have like more updates on what's going on there. So that's about it, I think.
Hi everyone. So for me, I'm not going to speak at all about Pass the Salt, even though it was a very interesting conference. I'm going to speak about the project on which R&D team is currently working. Can I pass the slides? Pour passer sec, je peux les passer après. Ah yes. So the code name is Kafkago because we are still looking for a fancy name. So if you have fancy name ideas, please be welcome. There's a AKMD about this. We didn't find the name. So just a bit of background for those that are not very familiar with Cerberus. One of the key points of Cerberus is to detect threats and identify attacks that are ongoing in order to ban the attacker, because public IP addresses are a costly resource even for attackers, and they have a limited number of those. So the current implementation exists and relies heavily on Elasticsearch. However, we are facing various issues, scalability issue, hardware issue, and one of the main issues is that a lot of the logs we want to analyze, we are not interested in storing them, especially on expensive storage, such as the ones that requires Elasticsearch. So we want to switch to a stream processing approach where we can really process the logs without having to store them, and we only are going to store the logs that are relevant, either for the security team or for the ops teams in general. So in a quick way, Kafkago is in between fail to ban. For those of you that are aware, it's something that allows you to say, if someone fails authentication 5 times within a few minutes, we are going to ban them. For the funny story, it's something that we used very early in the Cerberus design. However, it's facing strong scalability issues as it's based on log files, and when you have like 5,000 different logs files, as you can expect, restarting the service takes quite some time and you run into various issues. And CM, because we are going to, so we process the logs, we transform them into meaningful events, and we arrange them with various stuff such as geolocalization or the data from GUI, from the nbs, or the data from Margo. So we're able to say this FQDN belongs to this customer, etc., etc. So basically, it's if-then mechanism. So if something happens more often than defined frequencies, then we're going to take an action or throw an alert. So how it works? So for those who don't know about Kafka is a stream processing engine. So basically, you throw logs, you give them a time to live, and you can consume the logs at any point, process them, and put them in another topic, process them again, etc. So it's just like, you can see it as a huge pipe on the network that can work in a distributed way. So as you can see, there are various steps. So the first step is really to transform the log lines into a meaningful event. So for example, we process the HTTP access and error logs, and we're going to transform the row line into saying, okay, this is a 4 request that ended up in a 404 from Nginx. So we go from logline to a dictionary for example, in terms of Python. Second step is that we enrich the information with meaningful information. The IP that is the 404 is located in China. It belongs to this autonomous system, and this FQDN belongs to this customer in this environment, etc., etc. And information about the date and so on. And then the interesting part is what we call currently the leaky bucket, or the bucket mechanism, is to be able to write behavior or describe patterns. Like, for example, you can do 404. However, if you trigger 10 different 404 in less than 1 minute, you are probably not a human. And even if you are a human, you are probably malversant, and you are definitely not a legitimate customer. Or, for example, did someone just log into the VPN on a Sunday at 2 a.m. from a country from which we do not operate? And finally, the connector is something that allows us to put either the raw event itself, the transform event, or the decision into various systems. So for now, we mostly rely on Elasticsearch because we suck at writing fancy display, fancy graphics, and with Kibana, we can easily create some dashboards. So why did we start such a project? Initially, we are really interested into acquiring a SIEM. So a SIEM is something that does this kind of stuff. However, it's stupidly expensive. For the record, when we asked for a quotation, just for NBS alone, with the current volume of events we are processing, it was around $150,000 per year just in licensing. So it was cheaper for us to rewrite it rather than to acquire products that might not fit our needs. And we wanted to replace the legacy system that is working and currently operating, and this is what operates Cerberus. So the thing is that we want something that scales, hence the choice of Kafka, because we can really distribute the processing across many servers, and the interesting mechanism of Kafka is really suitable for scalability. And we wanted to do something cool that we are going to open source, because open source is something we strongly believe in, and it's a good way to showcase our skills and how such a cool company that we are. And finally, we wanted to have a design that is scaling, because when we did the first iteration, we were only processing a few hundreds of events per second, and now it's a few thousands, and tomorrow it will be tens of thousands, or let's hope hundreds of thousands. So we really need to review the whole design because the current one was not scalable enough. So what are we going to use it for? It's just an example. So right now it's something that the R&D is driven by the security team, but we really hope that it's going to be useful for ops teams, customer service team, because this kind of mechanism is something that you can really replicate for any use besides security. Like, for example, a lot of websites, they will have any design issues, so there's a CSS missing, a JavaScript missing, so a lot of users are going to trigger 404. However, if you have one user that is triggering many 404 at the same time or within a short period, it usually means that someone is scanning your website or looking for vulnerabilities. And as well, for example, you can fail your authentication a few times, but you can't fail it too fast or too often, because that's it's called brute force, and we are going to ban you. And then one fancy thing is the auto-learning bucket. So we know quite some customers are facing issues with crawlers. Bots that navigate the site way too fast in order to get the content of the site, and usually end up crashing the site or impacting strongly user experience. And here we have a mechanism that can observe for a said website or for whatever kind of events how users usually behave. Like, let's say you're on a website, usually users will get around 10 or 15 pages per minute. And if suddenly you have one user that is triggering 200 pages per minute, you know something is going on. Here the challenge is that we don't want to have to configure it manually, and want something that learns from the current behavior of the website in order to detect anomalies. And same goes as well for the web application firewall mechanism, where even in learning mode we can easily detect if someone has a behavior that is way too different from the normal users. And as well, it's a filter. So this is one of the first usage I think of for the ops team, is that you can say if an event matches this and this filters or this and this criteria, we are going to throw an alert. Remember, the mechanism is meant to be plugged into anything, so right now it's mostly flat files and Elasticsearch, but we are currently writing like a connector for Mattermost like we did for the old one, or even for the ticketing system, in order to be able to say, like, for example, if suddenly we have a lot of 502 or 504 on the website, we are going to throw an alert because it is something that is wrong. And as the data is enriched with the customer information, and more of our customers are using, for example, Mattermost and have dedicated channels, you can even foresee having the bot that is going to alert directly in the channel of the customer to say, okay, there might be an issue because you are getting this or that behavior. And so for this one, the correction is still a work in progress, but it's to be able to have decisions that is based really on a chain of events. For example, the typical behavior we see is that when WordPress is compromised, is the user managed to get access to the back office somehow by either vulnerability or brute forcing the passwords, and then he's going to use the theme editor to backdoor a file. And as you might know, using eNotify or ODD, we're already monitoring the files that are modified on the file system. And then if we see a file being modified while nobody is logged in into the computer, and then a few seconds or a few minutes later, you see a request accessing this page, it probably means that the site has been breached. So it's to be able to create a chain of actions that will lead to a specific alerting. And as well, for example, it allows you to easily detect port scanning behavior and so on. So just, I don't know if it's readable, maybe it's not big enough, but it's just an example of how we describe an event. So for example, we are going to say, we expect users to be able to fail SSH authentication once per 10 seconds. However, if you do more than once per 10 seconds and you exceed 5 in a row in less than like 50 seconds, as we say the message type is authentication failure from SSH, then we are going to take an action, either ban the attacker as we do usually, or throw an alert. And for example, this one is a typical example is that if we see someone log in using SSH or OpenVPN on a day that is Sunday or Saturday, we are going to throw an alert because except for someone that is working, that is doing the off duty or which is on duty, it's a suspicious behavior, and we can even add a filter saying like if someone is logging from on OpenVPN on a Saturday or Sunday from a country which is neither Tunisia nor France, we are going to throw an alert because someone might have been his OpenVPN certificates stolen. So just like example, it's a very generic approach to be able to throw alert matching events conditions. So just for example, because now we start to actually use it, one of the issues we're facing that are usually facing CM mechanism and which is facing the current mechanism is a lack of integrated applicative monitoring to be able to know how many events per minute are we processing. Is the mechanism lagging behind because there's a sudden burst of events? So using Elasticsearch, Kafka, and Kibana, we're able to create fancy dashboards so that the SecOps can know exactly what is going on. If there's a sudden spike of events from a specific customer to get an alert, because it might be that either there's a security issue or something is going wrong in terms of operations. For those that are used to deal with existing Kibana dashboards for bans, it was not very user-friendly, let's say. So we try to do things differently so that people can easily understand what is going on. Like for example, here you have one, you don't see because it's too small, but you have two IPs from one specific autonomous system in China that is doing SSH brute force. So you will be able to have a better visualization and understanding of what kind of alerts are thrown and why, or to write your own filters in the future. And this is something that is really important, is that it's not designed only for the security team. We are the one leading the implementation because we have an immediate need of replacing the existing system. But however, we are able to ingest all the logs from all the servers of NBS, OT, Netfall, AWS, etc. So people will be able to create dashboards, and as the data is enriched with customer, for example, you will be able to create a dashboard only for a specific customer representing all the events or only some of the events that you have interest in. And of course, the goal is to improve the SecOps role and to have a better SOC, because as you might know, since the acquisition of NBS, the goal of the security team is to really extend their reach to work with all the companies in the group. There's already some Cerberus hosting in Switzerland. Now in Nantes, they are starting to look into it seriously as well. So we really need to have tools that are more robust and more transparent. And the fact of open sourcing it, we really hope that we are going to have a great contribution for the community, because there's a real lack of open source projects in this field, and it's mostly reserved to proprietary environments. So we really foresee to have a strong impact and be able to improve the activity overall. And so that's it. So now we start to use it. The SecOps, starting this week, start to rely on the new mechanism rather than the existing one. So we are going to try to, for the next Tech Night, to do more deep dive topics on this, and we really hope that we can work with the ops team to write policies that will help them quickly to identify misbehaviors, etc., etc. So that's it for me.
Thank you.
Non, je pense qu'il y a d'autres trucs. Je sais pas s'il y en a qui ont des questions. Je suis comme il y a 30 secondes.
Ouais, ça marche.
Si Johan, tu veux comment?
Et Julien, tu veux faire la conférence de ce soir.
Pour dire qu'est-ce que tu veux.
Ouais. Du coup, je peux le faire glisser sur la séquence.
Ah, tu fais ton truc sur le cœur?
Ouais.
Ah,
Merci à tout.
cool. On va voir enfin les vrais bouts de la présentation. Just for the record, so here the REM session, so it's 5 minutes with someone with a, a time watch that is watching you. And how many slides did you have?
Many?
60 or 70.
60 or so, including videos, etc. And we told him he seemed to be quite optimistic. So, he's going to do it. And he didn't finish the intro, and the guy's like, 1 minute left, 1 minute left.
About a third. Ça marche pas.
Lui, il est déjà à côté.
Ah, ok, d'accord.
Regarde derrière toi, il est... Non, mais regarde.
Ah, c'est
Yes.
c'est cool. Okay, so I guess you don't need the introduction because you probably already know me. C'est comment on va changer les
En fait,
pages?
ça le change, mais si tu le poses derrière, c'est tout.
Ah, ok. Vas-y. Okay, so this is a talk about curl. It's a really useful tool. So it was started more than 20 years ago by Daniel Steinberg for making an IRC bot. The point was to have something simple to exploit the web. 1996 is like very early days of the web. It's available on basically any Linux, Mac OS, even probably Windows now, box you can get. So it's really everywhere. It's still getting many updates after 20 years. It has good integration, PHP, C libraries, Python, anything you like. You will have probably a link to use it. It's a very open license, and it means client URL request library. So, yeah, there was also jokes in the talk. And all the slides didn't import well. It's not supposed to be a PDF actually. So it has many use cases and many fail cases too. But that's normal because the tool is not big, but it can do many things. So it's a really big manual, and you usually need it when something is wrong on your website. So yeah, you don't want to eat the entire manual. I did though. So some basics about HTTP. So HTTP is what you see like all the time, every day in your browser. One of your screen at any time of function, if you live in 2018, is displaying somewhere HTTP. So you should know about it. So it's basically what we use to communicate on internet. And what is really important is it's a TCP protocol, so it needs to have an actual connection, something reliable. I won't go too deep inside this. So I'm not talking either about the DNS. Just keep in mind, it's how you reach a website on the internet. Internet only knows number, like your IP address, not the domain name. So the DNS will make a relation between your site.com with your IP, like just for numbers. It's different from a host from the website point of view, meaning that you will get in touch with an IP and ask to this IP to deliver a website. So you actually, during the transaction, you do say the name of the site twice. I will come back to this in just a second. I won't go in detail about HTTPS. It's just encryption around an HTTP TCP connection. Just keep it updated and you should be fine, and keep the green padlock green. So HTTP is basically I want something on the website. If you just go on something.com, you will just want the slash. It's called the URI, don't mistake it with URL. The name of the site, as I said, it needs to be given 2 times because the same IP can hold several websites. Some info, we say headers about your browsers, about the connection. Some more info, like maybe more personal. Every time you go from European Union on a website, it will ask you if it's allowed to use cookies. So that's the moment when you send the cookies. And a blank line, which says, it's all the info I have, give me something. So it looks like this. Actually, the I don't know the English name of the chevron. What is this character?
Less than.
Okay, lesser than.
No,
actually larger than.
Greater than. Yeah, but same.
Okay, so this from this sign is actually what gets sent on the wire. It's not like numbers of black magic. And the answer from the server, it will respond an HTTP code. Oh yeah, I have this page, 2.0. I don't have this page, or I don't know, I failed, which is a 5.0. There is several more, but I won't go in detail. It will then answer some more headers about the data it's about to give, the size, when it was created or updated, and what is the actual content. And it will maybe write some cookies to identify you and do stuffs. And another blank line, I forgot about it. And after the blank line, you will have, if you are on a page, some HTML code. And if you are on the page with pictures and you are requesting the picture, you will have the pictures. And this could be like any content. So it looks like this. And after this blank line, you would have your content. So let's try this. So here is a problem because I made, it is supposed to be a video, but PDF doesn't carry video. But you can find on the GitHub the line. This line is actually interesting. So you can intercept the traffic going on, and so this part is pretty logical. This ugly part is just give me the interesting packets, the packets that will carry some actual information about the transaction. So this slide was just to display what actually happens if you do what I did with curl in an actual browser. And now if you are really focused on the presentation, you can see I was on HTTPS and I did my TCP dump, and it's supposed to show the things. But it shows it in clear. So yeah, it was like totally fake because you can't read HTTPS traffic as text since it's encrypted. So how to use curl? How not to use curl? This, for example. So this is the common curl. My -v will verbose. It will display the thing with the lesser than, like things coming from the server to your client, and the client to the servers with the higher than. The big I will ask just for the headers, so it will make the request, and the server will only answer the first part until the blank line, and then your address. So in many cases with many applications, the head is not allowed. If you are requesting our server, I want to give you content. I'm not here to just give you half the job. You won't have the information. Like maybe you will be successful at getting a page, but it won't have the content you want. So those 2 points make it not a good test. If you want to see if your page or server is working, you want the entire thing. But you probably don't want to display it in your terminal, so just redirect to dev null, and it makes you look cool on IRC. You can also use the -o option, but there is no, at this point, there is no way to tell curl to just don't display the content of the page. I'm just interested in the headers. Often when you are debugging for some reverse proxy failure or varnish or things like this, you just want to see if the header and the creation date and age of the page is right. But for now. So another cool thing you can do many times if you want to check your local copy or a staging site, but you want to call it with the actual address. So you will need to change the address. So you will often like sudo vim and /etc/host. You don't want to do that, because often you will switch to root, and this is an important file. You will forget about you changing the file. You will forget that you switched to root, and in many cases you will have some ampersand and those kind of symbol in your URL, and if you forget to do the double dash around it, you might trigger some command as root and really fuck up your really mess up your box. So you don't want that, and curl got you covered on this. You can do this /etc/host modification right from the command line. And you can even if you will do this often, you can even have a configuration file for curl. Just need /.curlrc and put as many options as you want, and it will keep as long as you every time you fire curl. Yeah, many times we will see some weird scripts using curl. This is probably not a super good idea. So for people not so technical, you take the entire output from this page, headers included, and try to see if it works. And if it doesn't, so if HTTP 1.1.200 isn't displayed, it will say it's an error. This is not the best option. Curl has several, I think almost 100 return code, so you can safely use this. And yeah, another subject, if the also in the scripting land, if curls gets an error, it probably won't be an error from a curl point of view. So you have to force him. -F is not for force; it's for fail. It will fail if it's usually wrong HTTP code. Because if you get a 404 on a curl page, on a request by curl, curl will have will be successful at getting the 404 error. So curl was working actually. So if you want to make a more classy and non-grapish way to do the previous command, this is the way to do it. You can add as many headers as you want. You can change the user agent, and this is really useful for testing, as always, reverse proxies and varnish and whatnot. But this is the really basic. We can go a bit further. So we were always like retrieving data from the website. We can also send data to the website, and that opens a whole new world. You can like authenticate to Facebook or Twitter or anything you like. You can send things to send files, anything you want. You will want to go further than just a get. Yeah, you can authentify with. I mean, I saw many cases where people said, "Oh no, I can't test this website with curl because I have to authenticate." You can. For the basic auth, when you have a pop-up asking you for a username and a password, you can usually just put a -u and your username, and it will ask for the password. But you don't see this scheme of authentication often on the internet. Actually, you will have to be directed to an authentication page, and you will retrieve a cookie or a token and use it after to authenticate with it. So you will usually make a post request, and to give the actual data, you need to do the post request. You have the --data option, and you can make everything right with this. So this is the way it usually go for a modern website authentication. Just post, login, admin. You might have to check the source of the page, or even the JavaScript, or monitor your connection with burp or TCP dump to see what's actually happening. But usually it will be something like login, password, this kind of things. Store it in a cookie jar. And when you have the the cookie in this file, you will be able to use it. You will usually find a token inside this file, and you can use it to get the authenticated page. Another really nice feature of curl is you can get many information about what happened on the connection. So you can give it a format string. If any of you has ever coded, it's when you print hello and a variable and something else. So it's exactly what it can do. There is literally a ton of them. I can't list them all, but you will be probably interested if you are doing like some benchmarks or trying to see if one of your server is slower than the other or doesn't give the right amount of data. Size downloaded, the total time, the time to connect, and many stats, and you can get them easily with this option. And another really nice feature outside of curl is you can get this from other tools too. In the developer tool from Firefox, you can usually, if you are in the network tab, you can just right click on one of the requests and just copy as curl command, and you have it with the right user agent, the right headers, and everything you need. It won't copy the cookie. So you have to copy the data you want from the cookie inside another file and use it if you want to be authenticated. But it's really useful and really fast. You have the same feature in Burp Suite. Burp Suite is really good tool. I like it. But it ain't free, and it's Java, so it's free.
Free but not open source.
Yeah, I was talking free software. So many more features I can't really talk about because we are missing time. You can use FTP with curl. You have several features for doing HTTPS, HTTP2 since quite recently actually. They're a bit late on that. You can send mail and retrieve your mail, and it's quite a nice features to have because if you are like programming, maybe you don't want to load another library. If you just want to send a mail once in a while, it's good to have it like easily without getting.
You can debug the mail server with that, or
What?
Because can you debug a mail server with that?
Actually, it will just send the request to send an email, just like you open a TCP connection. It might be much more comfortable than using Telnet, and you can check timings. You have all of the other curl options with these features.
So you can do some.
You can do quite some debugging with it. Yeah, really SMTP. And another really nice feature, especially if you are going to work for benchmarking and you need curl to be really fast. So you don't want to embed it in a shell script. You can get the C code from the curl request you make. Just type libcurl and it will output a C file, and you can do the cool for and many funny and aggressive things with the file you get from this. And it's all automated. You can have your benchmark program in like several seconds. So we are close to the end. There is much more to say about it. So I hope you learn like already several things, and if you want to go further, and you all can go further from what I said, just if you have like 10 minutes, half an hour, try to see if you can get something new from the man page. That's all. If you have some questions.
J'avais un anecdote qui disait ça quand tu parlais de l'IA dans ce cas-là.
Oh. So the question was if the head request. Oh, it's too far backward. I can't go back to the slide. If the head isn't allowed, you can make a curl -v and just head the first lines because you will still have headers during a get. Yeah, you can do that. Okay. More question?
Will you send the slide?
What?
Will you send the slide by email or Martin? The slide.
Where is it available?
Yes.
It's on GitHub. I will just write.
Do you send the link to Martinos maybe?
Yeah, mais c'est pour les gens qui sont. Slides are available here. And from there, there is a talk and misc section, and you can find the PDF there. Or even try to use curl to get there. Thank you.
Apparemment, il n'y a pas d'autres questions chez OT. Autre chose? Bon. Merci tout le monde.
Eh ben, merci.